Chicago is a city in crisis right now, from the chaos we saw downtown this past weekend to the rise in violent crime.
But car thefts have exploded, according to the Chicago Police Department's data.
The CEO of McDonald's making a stunning revelation to other corporate CEOs. Chicago crime is making it very hard to do business.
Everywhere I go, I'm confronted by the same question these days. What's going on in Chicago?
The world-famous Chicago, the third largest city in America, and it soon could be joining a number of other American cities in becoming unlivable. This is Chicago in the 1970s to 1980s, a normal city, people going to work and enjoying life. Now it's not uncommon to see headlines such as these. Now fast forward to this year, and it seems as though the city is in a crisis. On average, Chicago is about 67% riskier than the US average when it comes to crime. Let's put it simply, this graph compares the homicide rate between 2005 and 2020. As you can see, we are seeing far more red in 2020, meaning an uptick in homicides. What's probably the most shocking numbers is the number of arrests made by Chicago police, which has plummeted by 83% in 15 years. From 2006 to 2021, from 225,943 to 38,400 per year. Some say that Chicago's 83% decline in arrests isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's an overall number that includes lots of low-level drug arrests of the sort that are expressly targeted by justice system reformers, who say an abundance of such arrests represents harmful over-policing. But the fall-off in Chicago isn't limited to low-level offences. Arrests for index crimes, an FBI category that includes violent crime, as well as offences such as high-level theft, also dropped substantially, falling by 79% between 2006 and 2021. The nation's third most populous city has seen a 34% rise in crime this year, with cases of theft up 65%. According to year-to-year data from the Chicago Police Department's website. What's even more shocking is that a recent journal published by the American Medicine Association found that Chicago is more dangerous than Afghanistan was for US troops during the Iraq War.
Walmart's going to close 4 stores in Chicago this weekend. By the way, that is half the total in Chicago.
They claim to be losing tens of millions of dollars a year, with losses doubling over the last 5 years.
Walmart recently closed half of its Chicago stores. Why exactly is this? The retailer stated that they haven't been profitable since the first one opened almost 17 years ago, collectively losing tens of millions of dollars a year. The location's annual losses nearly doubled in the past 5 years. And it's not only Walmart. Boeing recently moved one of its major headquarters away from Chicago to Washington, D.C., and Citadel moved to Miami. Many refer to this move as a punch in the gut for Chicago. Recently, AT&T closed its flagship store on Michigan Avenue. The closing adds to other Big Mac mile departures, including Gap, Banana Republic, Uniqlo, Macy's, and Verizon. A Walgreens store in Chicago reportedly had been redesigned to allow customers to browse only 2 aisles of products after they pass through anti-theft detectors. The store is putting most of its merchandise in aisles behind staffed counters, which customers can shop through kiosks, and more so retail pharmacy to prevent theft. Inside the store, customers will find an area where they can pick up orders, digital kiosks for placing an order, as well as an area to shop for essential items.
Now, offices in big and small cities across America have been sitting vacant or heavily underused ever since millions of Americans were forced to work from home during the pandemic.
Downtowns across America are now a spectre of an office real estate apocalypse, urban doom loop, and transit death spiral. What's next for Chicago could be frightening. The Chicago area has retained its #1 spot as the nation's leading city for commercial real estate investment. In the heart of Chicago's financial center, a 7-story building occupying much of the city block was once home to the world's largest options exchange. Now it's completely empty. The property for decades, home to the floor where options traders jostled and screamed orders at each other, has now been on the market since 2019. If you look at the famous Magnificent Mile, or commonly referred to as a Mag Mile, you see that empty storefronts dot the streets, with vacancies at a record. Currently, the Mag Mile's vacancy rate stands at 29%. The commercial real estate struggles are putting huge distress on once thriving economic centre for America. Things aren't looking up for the commercial real estate market, with the city's office vacancy rate reaching a record 22.4% in the first quarter. Currently, it's experiencing the lowest demand since the pandemic. Chicago fared the second worst among 11 US cities in an index of office leasing activity, ahead of only San Francisco in the first quarter. This graph shows that Chicago is right in the center on commercial real estate struggles across the country, with 22.4% vacancy rate. Illinois has had 9 consecutive years of population loss, the second longest streak in the nation. People moving out of Illinois made up 63.8% of total migration, meaning 36.2% of those moving were headed into the state. Only New Jersey had a higher outbound percentage of 66.8%. When concentrating on the city, they found that over the last 5 years, more people left the Chicago metro area, a net loss of at least 294,000 people. Only New York and San Francisco saw a bigger population decline. Just earlier this year, Chicago's rent reached the most expensive ever recorded, according to Zillow's data. The estimated average rent in Chicago is $1,925 as of November 2022. This is much cheaper than other major US cities such as New York and Los Angeles. However, it's very expensive for the Midwest region. Here's a list of how the average rent in Chicago of $1,925 stacks up against other Midwest cities for November 2022. Preliminary data from November shows Illinois had the second worst unemployment rate in the country, behind Nevada. Chicago has become a dangerous city. We're beginning to see a very concerning trend among major cities in America. Chicago could very well become another casualty, and a number of American cities becoming more and more unlivable. Let us know what you think about Chicago and its future.